episode 83.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Who Did That Voice, where we take an in-depth look at voiceovers.
Ready to take a vacay, but you just don't have the time to plan? Let the agents at 3D Travel Company pamper you and take care of all the little details. Find us at www.whodidthatvoice.co and click the Book Now button on the left-hand side. For a limited time, Who Did That Voice listeners can receive a Disney gift card for qualifying Disney and Universal trips, booked and traveled by 2017. Hurry and book today so you can travel away.
Welcome to Who Did That Voice, the show where we take an in-depth look at voiceover. And now, here's your host, Trenton Larkin.
Hey everyone, just wanted to let you know we have launched a Patreon page. You can find us at www.patreon.com/whodidthatvoice. What is Patreon, you say? Well, it's a lot like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo campaign that allows you to help support us on a monthly basis. For as little as $1 a month, you can help support the show and earn amazing perks. Help us out today and join the Who Did That Voice family in a new way. Hello everyone and welcome back to the show. Today's special guest voiced the Androsian Commander on Star Fox Zero: The Battle Begins.
How dare you interfere with my mission? I'll squash you like the insects you are.
So, that's the boss man, huh? Slippy, Peppy, hang back and recover. Falco, you're with me. We've got to take down that ship.
Do a barrel roll!
Falco! Heading down below.
We're not going to fall that easily! Curse you, Star Fox! When Andros hears about this, you're through! You hear me?
Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Who Did That Voice. Today on the show we have Jay Preston joining us today. Jay, thanks so much for coming on the show.
No problem, man. My pleasure.
Well, Jay, the very first thing we always like to do when we have a new guest on the show is just to get a background on who they are and who was Jay Preston, the young boy that grew into the man in voiceover.
I don't know if I'm the man yet, but I was just an actor out of New England, 30 minutes south of Boston, a little town called Norton, Massachusetts. And and I just lived there and got into theater real young. I got a taste of what it felt to be on stage and have everybody like kind of captivated. And I was like, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And then I just did community theater. And then when I got to high school, there was no theater department. So a friend of mine's mother started the theater department there. And our first show was Cinderella the Farce. And I played Cinderella. And it was fun. I wore my mom's dress. So that's the first and last time I wore a dress and heels. But that was my intro to theater pretty much. And then I was a working actor, cut to college and everything. I went to a couple of colleges. I tried out in New York for a couple of months and I did not like it. And then, because it was either going to be New York or LA. And then I got a part in Pirates of the Caribbean, the third movie. And I was just flying back and forth from Boston to LA, trying to get that whole thing done. It was kind of like at that point, of course, it was like the coolest thing ever in my life, you know? And that's what gave me the money and to get into the SAG and the chutzpah to drive out to LA and then I just really wanted to do on camera and just on camera work because I was a working actor when I left Boston. I was working at the Medieval Manor and doing stage choreography and combat all over the place and doing improv and actually getting paid for it. So
wow,
I was like,
awesome.
Let's do another movie. I did 2 tours across the country too, doing children's theater. So I got to see all the states. And then I was like, let's do this LA thing. And and then I came out here just and approached on camera and learned the hardships of LA and this town. And then 5 years after being here, I kind of got jaded about it all, as a lot of people do. And I was about to make another move. Really was thinking of just going to Scotland and just seeing what life was like there.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I got into voiceover by accident because I met someone randomly at some bar, and his aunt happened to be Mary Ellen Lord from SBV.
Oh, wow.
And I went there and had my first voiceover audition pretty much ever. And I didn't know what I was, but I had all this copy and all this script, and I got to play all these different characters, and it was all in this cool booth, and it was just super fun, and it kind of relit the fire that I had when I first got here for a whole new animal, and I've been at it ever since. And 3 years after that, I quit my job, and I've just been doing this. It's been great.
Well, that's fantastic, Jay. I didn't realize you'd had such a diverse background in theater and acting and everything. And what role were you? Were you just kind of an additional character in Pirates of the Caribbean, or what kind of role did you play in that?
I originally got cast as a French pirate with lines, so you can tell I was like very on top of I was like in the top of the world. I was like, I'm gonna have lines in a Pirates of the movie, and we got fitted for it and everything. And then like a week later, they called and said that Gore wanted to use actual people from France for those pirates, but he already cast a whole crew. So he was like, well, we're going to still use all of you all in the movie. We just don't know where yet. And then another week goes by, and then it was like, okay, you're New World pirates. You're on Keith Richards' boat. So, and there's possible lines, maybe. We're not sure. So still cool, still in it, but not like definite lines.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up not having any lines, but I ended up being on set for like 6 or 7 days, and it was so much fun.
That had to be spectacular.
Probably one of the best intros I've ever heard of getting into LA.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's fantastic. Well, diving into some of the stuff you've done, Jay, one of the things I wanted to talk about was your part in Star Fox Zero as the Androsia Commander. I've always been a huge fan of the Star Fox games, and the fact that you were able to be in that animation was awesome. What was it like getting to work on that project?
That was crazy because it kind of, you do auditions different ways. You go in your booth and you do your auditions and you spend some time on stuff, and and then some days you just, like when I got that audition through one of my agents in Texas, it was just so many characters and so many like voice. It was all voice matching.
Yeah.
So for me to do that in my booth the way I have it set up, I would have to like go outside of my booth, listen to something on the computer, come back in, and then record it, and then go back out and listen and come back, and I was like, all these characters, that's going to take forever. And I was like, it was already around my 2. I don't really eat breakfast. I just drink coffee all day till about 2 or 3. And then my stomach starts to go. So like, I was like, all right, I'm starting to get hungry. This is going to take forever. And I got to get these auditions in. So I also have this microphone above my computer that I used to use just for practice and warm-ups and pay to play auditions and stuff. And I was like, I'm just going to use that. And I don't know what this project is. And I'm just going to like press play on something and repeat, like just mimic,
Yeah.
So I busted out, I did like 1 take each, and I busted out all the characters that I could think of that I could match. And I was done in like 20 minutes. And then I just sent it off and I didn't think about it. And it was like not even on the good recording in my booth. It was just, I just listened, repeated, everything was recording, and I cut out all the other stuff. And then I booked the thing, and I still didn't know what it was. And then we get there to a studio I hadn't been in Burbank, and then I find out it's Star Fox. And I used to play Nintendo, and
yeah,
I grew up on video games, and I was like, get the out of here. And I was like so stoked that I was one of the villains. It was just. Out of all the characters, I didn't think that was my strongest match. There was 2 others I thought were like, if anything, it'll be these 2,
Yeah.
And so that was my strongest match, which was awesome. And the recording thing was great. And then another buddy of mine who just moved to California. I don't know if you have Joe Zaja on the.
We did, yeah.
Yeah, so he gets it, and then 2 of my other friends were on it too. So it was like all of a sudden it was like the whole cast was a bunch of my friends, minus one person who now is my friend because I found him. I was like, we can't have the whole cast, like missing one person. But yeah, we all booked it on our own different ways. Some booked it out of pay-to-play sites, and I booked it out of the agency. And so random, but it was just a bunch of friends in this thing, and everyone was so good.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing animation, and your voices are just stellar on the show. I know when Joe and I talked, he said he opened the sides and he was like, "No way, babe." He was talking to his wife. He's like, "It's Fox freaking McCloud."
Oh yeah, and he sounded so good, and we just our fingers are still crossed that the game didn't come out as good as they were hoping, but that animation was so stellar. And I was like, we're just fingers crossed that like they come out with the show and we can all reprise characters and stuff.
That would be great because, I mean, Star Fox has always been an amazing game, and to see that animation, it totally would make an amazing long series because people love the characters.
Absolutely.
So,
such good characters.
Amazing. Yeah, the best. You know, Jay, what are some other amazing projects that you've worked on, man? I know you've done so many different animations and you've worked on video games. What are some other things that really stick out for you in your mind as some favorites?
I got to tell you, two of my favorites right now I can't even tell you about because they're on the way.
Okay.
But they have been, I mean, I'm getting luckier and luckier as the video game stuff I start booking more meteor roles.
Awesome.
So coming up pretty soon, there's some pretty fun parts that I've been playing. And actually something just came out. I think it's called Nitro MX or something like that. It's on the Xbox and PS4. And I'm like 10 voices in it. And I'm the guy. It's like a motocross racing game.
Cool.
And I'm the guy who like starts talking to you about training and all the tutorials and stuff like that. But then there's like, I'm also a Southern guy, a Scottish guy, an English guy. It was a lot of fun. I think it's just me and one other guy doing all the voices for this whole game.
Well, that's awesome.
It's the first game that's on the Xbox for me. So I'm kind of stoked because I get to actually play it.
Absolutely. Well, that's really cool that you've got to do so many voices because then you get to listen and say, oh my gosh, those are all me.
Yeah, it's really surreal sometimes when you start doing it. Like Eon Altar was such a fun game for me to do. And I love doing old men characters.
Yeah.
So I had this old wizard character for the game Eon Altar. And it was such a 6-hour session in my booth at home. And I do like 3 or 4 characters in that game too. It's coming out for Xbox eventually, but right now it's on Steam.
Okay.
But one of the funniest things is this character is like an old wizard, you know, like Deckard Cain from Diablo.
Yeah.
And I wanted something in my hand, but I'm just sitting in my like booth closet, you know? So I broke one of my coat hangers and used that for a cane for the whole time I was recording him, and it totally helped.
Well, you know, sometimes when you're doing voice, it really does help to have props because it puts you more in the mood and in the right feeling, you know? So
yeah, for sure.
That's fantastic. Well, Jay, you know, what kind of advice would you give to somebody who might be looking at joining the acting industry and more specifically the voice acting industry?
The advice that I kind of cultivated 3 years ago was the one that kind of set me on, because when I got to LA, I was trying to do everything.
Yeah.
Spread myself way too thin. I was saying yes to everything, and I was trying to be on camera and do theatrical and still do improv and maybe do a voiceover workshop, or, you know, and you spread yourself so thin, you spread your money so thin. And I don't come from anywhere that was like family already in the business or a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So it was like, you know, plus you got to wait tables, and that takes up a lot of your life and energy.
Yeah.
And then of course, LA traffic does not help your energy and life. So I spread myself way too thin for 5 years, and I was making progress, but tiny bits of progress in all the different areas rather than a lot of progress in one. So my suggestion to anybody coming out to try this or just wants to get into voiceover, even in voiceover, there's like 5 different sects, you know, animation, video game, commercial, promo, and each one's their own little animal.
Yeah.
And if you try to do all of them, again, you're spreading yourself too thin. And so I'd say focus is my main thing. Pick one. It doesn't mean you're giving up on the rest of them. It just means that, you know, everyone's going to know you do that well. And you're going to do that well way better, and you're going to learn more about it faster in a shorter amount of time than trying to do everything just to keep it all open. So I focused on commercial voiceover, and I dropped everything else. I dropped on camera, I dropped everything, and I just did that one section, and I did it for 2 years. And I took as many classes and workshops and saw as many coaches as I could. And I got really honed in on my like signature voice or whatever. And I learned a lot, and I booked a lot. And then I was able to say, okay, I think I got that. I'm still always going to take classes and workshops on commercial stuff because that kind of always changes. You listen to the radio. Yeah. But now I can focus. The last year and a half, I've been focusing on promo and trying to get that animal down. And I feel I'm definitely getting better. I can hear it in my auditions and my reads. And so this has been, so I'm just focus is my main thing. Like pick something and focus. I know we want to do it all, but like figure out what you're good at and focus on that until it starts to become successful. And then other stuff just starts coming in. I booked more stuff on camera after I stopped trying to do on camera than I did while I was trying to do it. I swear to God.
That is so funny. Well, and sometimes it's when you don't try that things just come to you because you're at such an ease that it's just like, I don't know. I think maybe people, I can't even talk. I think maybe people kind of sense it almost that you're just kind of relaxed and they just spot you maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
I think people want to work with people who are successful, and it's just a subconscious thing. Like you see someone doing well and you're like, man, I want to work with them. So they're always on your mind, it's like, and so I think that might be the thing. Like I just went on a 5-day road trip, and on that trip I booked 5 things, and I was just, and they all were okay with moving it to the next week. And it was just, everything was just flowing, going, and I'm just having a good life and things are going well. And like, I think, and then when you do your auditions that way, 2-3 takes in and you're like, yep, I feel great about that audition. It's like, you're not stressed.
Yeah. And so kind of going back to your advice, so with focusing on one thing instead of spreading yourself thin across all these different areas you want to try to hit, you're pretty much saying kind of become an expert in one field. And then as you become an expert or get a really good grasp on it, then you can look at broadening your horizons to another additional thing possibly.
Yeah, I think that's the smart. I mean, everyone works different, but man, that really works for me and a lot of people I know. And you just get good at that, and then you can bring that whatever it is that you start booking with, like whatever the little edge is that you have, whatever your uniqueness. You can just layer that into the next thing you go after.
Well, Jay, what would you say is your uniqueness that keeps bringing people back to you and wanting you for projects?
I'm not telling you all.
It's the hats.
I think it's got to be the hats. So yeah. That's what it is. I don't know. I think it's just my delivery on stuff. I take chances, and I think maybe that's what it is. I don't really ask them. I'm just happy they keep doing it, and I just read the way that I talk in general. Yeah. And I kind of bring my own personality to my reads now, because when you first start in the voiceover world and you're starting with all this, you've heard radio ads, you've heard TV ads, you've heard everything all your life. So all you're really doing is emulating what you think things should sound like.
Yeah.
And then it's layer on being an actor and wanting to act and wanting to bring more to stuff. And, layer that in, and it really mucks everything up, kind of. So it's like a lot of the training is really stripping you down from all that stuff. It doesn't mean you're not going to be an actor. It doesn't mean, but it gets really basic to just who you are, because that's what's not there yet, especially when it comes to commercial. I can emulate Dennis Leary, I can emulate these other people, but it's really my personality that doesn't exist on the radio yet. And that's kind of what you have to, and it takes a while to like let that sink in. Let it's just you,
Yeah.
One of the hardest things for actors to do is stop acting.
Well, that's an interesting thought. I've never thought of that before, because you kind of hear different voices and you think, oh, I need to sound like that radio announcer type voice, but it may be unique to that individual, not necessarily that they're doing anything, they're just being themselves, like you were saying, so
yeah. How many times you see John Krasinski or Emma Stone for a reference, and it's not that they want that voice. I mean, yes, they do. If they could afford it, they would get it, but like they want the essence of it, like that's just them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, do you have social media that people can reach out to you, Jay, whether they have questions about voiceover or just, maybe they're looking to hire you for a project? They've heard you on the show.
Yeah. I mean, jaypreston.com, JAYpreston.com. You can get in touch with me, and all my social media is attached there. If we're not friends on Facebook, you can't, it goes into that other folder, and I check it like once a week. So you might not, but you can do I have all the links are there, and you can go to my professional Facebook page, and that goes right to me, or just email me at jprestonvo@gmail.com.
Fantastic, Jay. And I've got 2 final questions for you before we wrap up this interview. And the first of the 2 is, what was your favorite cartoon or show growing up as a kid?
The favorite one, man. I think it's a definite tough mix between Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Animaniacs, because they both had a unique point in my life when I was just like always on the Ninja Turtles. But I think it was more as a kid. But when Animaniacs came, I really started enjoying all the different voices and all the styles, and you know, because I loved Looney Tunes. I knew I loved Looney Tunes growing up, but then it kind of disappeared during that, you know, good point in your life when you're a kid, and all those other shows came in like Tailspin and DuckTales and all that, and then Animaniacs kind of brought back that feeling that I originally had, probably when I don't even remember, just watching, you know. My parents probably put Looney Tunes on, you know, and then Animaniacs showed up, and it was like, it's a feeling. It's like your first past feeling, I think.
Yeah, or the fact that Rob Paulson just happened to be in both of those shows.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy, and I don't know if this story is on some other thing somewhere, but I got to tell you that just by the networking in LA and this and that and everything else, I ended up at some studio in Burbank. And because a friend of mine was a mixer, and he was like, you got to come and just listen to some sessions. Well, one of the guys was Rob Paulson. I didn't know really who he was or what he did, because I've never been that kind of actor who looks up directors and producers and actors. There's a lot of those actors, and I don't have the time. I like to meet someone for the first time and not know already all the shit they've done, because it makes me nervous.
Yeah.
But anyway, this guy comes in, and he rattles off like 4 or 5 characters within a half hour. Just the most impressive thing I've ever seen. Kind of like I felt like I was watching, you know, Robin Williams. That's the only thing I could relate him to. Yeah. Like an alien person, you know? And I was like, what? And then he comes around and he talks to everybody, and he was so nice. And then he starts doing it like the mixer friend was like, you got to do the Yakko voice. And I was like, what? And so he does that, and right then as he's doing Yakko, and then he went into Michelangelo. Was it Michelangelo? Or I don't forget. He goes into like some other Raphael. He goes into characters, and I was like, right then an idol showed up. Like he transformed from a person, and I got nervous, and I feel like I went white, and I was just like, this is a legend, and this is my childhood. And he did the Ace Ventura thing, and I was like, so yeah, he like immediately became one of my like top people I've ever just. I don't know. I can't even like talk about it. How it's just amazing when you got to see him work for a second, and then you realize like how much he was affected your life as a kid, and you know, it's just really cool.
Well, it shows that you have a great admiration for him and for his work. So that's awesome, man. I really appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And that's kind of what the whole question is about, you know, not just what's your favorite cartoon, but especially for someone in the voiceover industry to have had that connection with a favorite cartoon show growing up, or 2 favorite cartoon shows growing up, and then ending up meeting the person who voiced some of the characters on those shows. I mean, you can't get more amazing than that, I don't think.
No. And then I end up signing with SPV, which is his agency. So it's one of those things, the signs in life that tell you you're on your right path. Yeah. You know, you got to pay attention to them. You just got to let them live within you and be like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and keep being happy. And like, you know, because the earthquake's coming, and this, you know, what else can you possibly do than just try to do what you love?
Absolutely. Well, Jay, I have one final question for you today. And the question is, what is the legacy that you want to leave behind?
What? That was a question that should have been on the beforehand question thing. Oh man, I don't know. I just want people to, if they think of me, to have good, happy thoughts about it. I don't know. I tend to meet a lot of people, and I just want to leave behind some inspiration, I guess, at this point. You know, there's a lot of stuff I want to achieve, and I have all these like maybe goals that, you know, if things line up and I have this kind of way too much money, I'm going to create this thing for people, you know. I just want to create places for people to go and not feel like they're threatened by, or, you know, there's 2 different sides to LA. One's the on camera side, and all those actors and stuff like that they're just cutthroat and fake, and I don't, you know. And then there's this voiceover side, and everyone is so giving and friendly, and everyone wants everyone to get the job, and you know, I want to create more of that.
That's awesome.
So if I can leave that behind, where everybody's just happy for each other and not trying to like underplay or undercut or sneak, and you know, that's what I want to create.
Absolutely. Well, you know, creating more content is a great way to do that. So maybe you could have your own studio someday or something.
One day. Yeah, I want to put a studio on a pirate ship is what I want to do.
That would be so epic.
Yeah, I'm going to figure it out how to do it so you don't hear the sound of the water and stuff. And I want to pirate studio, and then they just carry it around.
A soundproofed pirate ship.
Yeah, I think it can be done, and I'm gonna figure it out.
That would be epic. We're out at sea today, broadcasting live.
Right, that'd be the best. Just go from port to port.
Yeah, you could totally take it the show on the go.
Yep. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
That's awesome. Well, I kind of think the way that your legacy is, the way you want to leave it, is kind of like to be the next Rob Paulson, where your generation of kids now hear you, love you, follow you, and then one day maybe they get to meet you when they come to LA to be a voiceover actor too, and they have that awe-inspiring moment.
It would be amazing, I tell you. I mean, I'm very honest with myself. Like, he is an uber talent, and there's some uber talents out there. I'll never be that good, but I hope to be good enough at some of the things I do.
Yeah,
that's all I care to do, because he is just one of those guys that is just so talented and so nice and generous, and I think I can do the nice generous thing. But some of that talent is, you're just born with it, man.
Well, Jay, it has been fantastic having you on the show today, brother.
Been a pleasure. I'm glad we got to do this.
I am too. Well, Jay, it has been an absolute honor and pleasure having you on the show today. Would you please give us a special closeout as we wrap up today's episode?
Here is a closeout of Who Did That Voice. It's been a pleasure. Welcome to Planet Earth.
Well, everyone, I sure hope you enjoyed today's episode with Jay Preston. And if you did, please find me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram by searching Who Did That Voice. I would love to hear from you. A question you might ask yourself is, where can I listen to Who Did That Voice? That's an excellent question. You can hear us on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and our website at www.whodidthatvoice.co. Click the Episodes tab and listen away. Well, everyone, that's all the time we have for this episode. Join us this Friday for our next special guest, Brad Venable, the voice of Shisami from Dragon Ball Super. You won't want to miss this episode. Hey, do you ask yourself who did that voice? Well, if you do, go to our website, www.whodidthatvoice.co, and click on the Episodes tab. Choose an actor, pick their name, and see pictures from the different characters they've voiced in their career.
Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time for more discoveries on Who Did That Voice.